Welcome back. This is the second of the four-part video series on nomenclature. This particular concept, like to split it over at least two separate videos so I can say as much as I want to say that's more important and vital and necessary to understand this idea. And then I'll make a separate video on something I want to say in the context of nomenclature. Right? With that said, let me refresh a few things from Chem 330. Okay, and I think this is important that we do refresh your memory on it. For instance, if a compound is, say, methane, if it's by itself, it's methane. But most of the time, all organic compounds are in combination with something else in a given compound. So when it's in a compound, we call it methyl, right? Similarly, ethane, we called it ethyl, okay? And propane, and then we call this is cyclohexane, which we have studied extensively in Chem 330, so cyclohexyl. All alkanes, become hexyls. And then there's two things that I want you to take that we have not learned how to name them is, this is benzene, okay? But in a compound, it is usually referred to as phenyl. In a compound, it's referred to as phenyl. And this is another class of compound where a benzene that's attached to a CH2, which in turn is attached to the functional group. What I'm saying here is, if a benzene is attached to a phenyl, to a functional group, you call it as phenyl and then whatever the functional group is. If this is the case where a benzene is attached to a CH2, which in turn is attached to something else, then we call this whole thing as, again, that is, now I'm going to go back and get rid of this box. So this is called benzyl. There's two things you may want to know because something we will use constantly throughout the course and I don't want you to forget it. So if you have to memorize something, it better be these two. All right. Now let's actually get into naming it, which is not hard. Now the reason I said I want to do a fourth video is this video and the video after this would only focus on compounds containing a single functional group solely, where only a suffix is needed. But when a compound contains more than one functional group, then we have to assign priority and use prefix and suffix. Okay, prefix for one of the functional group or more than one functional group, and suffix for only one of the functional groups, right? That's a separate video. Again, like I said, I cannot make 200 videos to teach this. I will give you the very basic that you need, and with that you'll be able to name most organic compounds. All right, with that said, all you have to do is, let's take the acid. This is the acid. Okay, I'm just going to add a CH3 to it, easiest. Okay, if most of you don't know, the common name of this in chemistry, we have common name and IUPAC name. I'll get to that later, but common name is acetic acid or vinegar. But how do we name it? The more technical term is, now the acid group is just this, right? Which is this, the C double bond or OH is a functional group. Now when we added the CH3, which is the coach compartment, to the engine compartment, now we have a total of 2 carbons, right? You agree, you see 2 carbons. What does 2 carbons refer to? Ethane, right? And how do we name this compound? Well, you got to first figure out how many carbons we have. And all you have to do is get rid of the E, so ETHAN, and then replace it with the whole suffix, oic acid. So ethanoic acid is the IUPAC name. IUPAC is International Union for Pure and Applied Chemistry. They have put forth some rules. So this is the technical name, this is the common name, acetic acid or vinegar or ethanoic acid. right? Very good. So let's pick an ester for that matter, okay? Let's say, oh, for an ester, there should have been an R here, okay? Somehow it's missing here. So we add CH3, say, on both for the R's, okay? So now if you look at it, you look on either side, we've added the two same groups, right? So what you have to do is to name this. It's not as straightforward as we did the acid. So if you take one of the functional group, which in this case we added identical methyl groups on both sides. So without this, I'm just drawing the line very invisible because you should be able to still see through what I'm doing. We have 2 carbons on this side and 1 carbon on this side, basically with respect to what we added, right? So you have to do this. If you have more than one, then I'll show you another case, right? So in this case, right, so this would be 2 carbon is ethane, right? This is methyl, right? Whichever one comes first in the alphabet sequence, M or E, obviously E comes before M. So the O8 will go with the lesser of the 2 alphabets, and the alphabet that comes later in the sequence retains its name as it is. So it will be methyl because it comes after E. This is methyl. This right here is, right, basically it's 2 carbon, right? So it's ethane. But as I said, get rid of the E and add the O8. So ETHANOIC. Sorry, O8. So it's methyl ethanoate is the correct name for this. So what if we have this? What if we didn't had? It's the only way to understand this is, well, what if I didn't add the same thing? Well, if I split it here, okay? Again, you got to split one way or the other. I always split the less of the 2 carbons. Now, in this case, I have M, and then I have 4 carbons, right? Sorry, 3 carbons, right? And this would be, well, if you have 3 carbons and this is methyl, right? So what if I do it this way? So I have 1 carbon and 3 carbon, and then let's write it one more time. Okay, so now we have, if we split it this way, we have 2 on either side, right? So if we do this format, right, it will be ethyl, and this is also ethane, so this would be ethyl, and for this it's ethane, right, because it's 2 carbon, but then we replace the E with OATE, so it's ethyl ethanoate. What if we had done this side? We didn't split on this side, we split here to get this name. What if we split here? Then this would be 3 carbons, which is propane, right? And so that means this will make no sense, right? Does it make sense? That means what we are saying now here is if we split it as 3 carbons, propyl cannot come before, right, methyl, right? So, but if you, by doing it this split, it is no longer, you cannot say propyl because this C double bond O is attached to this side, so it has to be propanoate, but it violates the law, right? So this means this would be not possible. You would have to split it on this side because this would turn out to be methyl propanoate, But what did I tell you is out of the two alphabets, the lesser alphabet would take the ATE, but P is not the lesser alphabet of the two. M is the lesser alphabet, right? So that means it should have been propyl methanoate, right? But we cannot split it as propyl, right? It would have to be split here, right? Where I put it right here. You cannot split it here. It has to be on either side of the functional group, not within the functional group. So methyl propanoate is not possible. Only ethyl ethanoate is possible. Does that make sense? Okay. If not, just repeat what I said. Maybe I'll do one more, okay? Let's take this. Instead of a methyl group, ethyl group this time, let's add maybe a butyl group. Okay. Now, if you split on this side, we get 1 carbon. On this side, we have 4 carbons total, right? So that would be butane, right? So this is M, this is B. So there's no problem in this case. So M would retain its actual name, methyl, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons. So that's butane. We just replace the E by OATE. So methyl butanoate. So this is easy. It's only this when you have when you split it in such a way that it doesn't seem like the higher letter cannot have the ATE, so we have to split it here, right? Now this again comes with practice. It's not super hard, but again it comes with practice, right? Let's do one more because I do have some room for time on this. Okay, so for an amide, let's say I'm going to take this and add a CH3 to an NH to this. This is the amide group. I just added a CH3, right? So what is this? So this is the amide, right? 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 So, but we have 2 carbons now, right? What is 2 carbons? Is ethane, right? Right? So get rid of the E and then write the amide, ethanamide, right? Right? Or you can also say methylamide, right? Because this is a methyl, or methylamide. Because that's just, this is more correct than this, but neither one is wrong, right? So this is ethanamide, this is methyl, and this is amide. So if you have a propyl, it's propylamide. But that is not acceptable. I would say ethanamide would be the more acceptable of the two, right? So I'm going to continue my discussion on this in another video, so stay tuned.